Good afternoon, church family. How you doing? All right, so let's pray one more time before we get started. Father, which art in heaven, as I stand before your people, Lord, I ask that you put aside all nervousness, Lord. I also ask that you put aside self, Lord. Let the words that are being spoken, Lord, be from you, Lord, and not from me. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. So today we're going to be talking about health and, more importantly, your eating habits and how those choices affect your spirituality. So one of my favorite quotes from the book Counsels on Diet and Foods, it says, hold on, okay. The controlling power of appetites will prove the ruin of thousands, when if they had conquered on this point, they would have moral power to gain victory over every other temptation of Satan. But those who are slaves to appetite will fail in perfecting Christian character. The continual transgression of man for 6,000 years have brought sickness, pain, and death as its fruits. And as we near the close of time, Satan's temptation to indulge appetites will be more powerful and more difficult to overcome. So to me, the most important part of this is the first sentence: the controlling power of appetite will prove the ruin of thousands, when if they had conquered on this point, they would have moral power to gain the victory or every other temptation of Satan. So we got to understand that appetite is like one of the main things that the devil will use to control us and to take us out. Unknown to us, a lot of times we fail to realize that we have taken into our bodies will ultimately define who we are. Think about it. We always say in gardening, whatever you put in your dirt is what you will consume in the plant. And a lot of times that would decide if your plant will make it or not. Well, humans are the same way. If our bodies are constantly consuming food that is unhealthy for us, then we will share the same fate as those vegetables that are planted in poor soil. So in the next few minutes, let's take a look at some, and these we're doing right now, is clean versus unclean animals. And everybody knows when I do a health sermon, I always do this as a refresher, so people can't say I didn't know or you didn't say that or whatever. So we're going to go through it real quick. So for unclean animals, and these are the animals that are on the earth, and you got the coney or the rodents, you have the hare or rabbit, the pig, of course, camel, alligator, ape, bear, cat, the cheetah, the dog, the donkey, the elephant, the fox, the gecko, the gibbon, which is a small ape, hedgehog, lion, lynx, monkey, parrot, penguin, raccoon, rat, seal, squirrel, snake, tiger, wolf, zebra, skunk, Tasmanian devil, rhinoceros, kangaroo, horse, hyena, jaguar, leopard, honey badger, and hippopotamus and coyote. So these are examples of animals that are on the land that are unclean to eat. And like I said, rabbit go by like 5 different names. So if the rabbit or hare is up there, that means you're not supposed to eat it, whatever name you want to call it. Unclean fish. We have catfish, we have clam, we have eel, lobster, scallop, shark, starfish, turtle, x-ray, fish, dolphin, bullhead, European turbot, marlin, the paddlefish, the sickleback, squid, which is also called calamari, the sturgeon, which is most caviar, swordfish, abalone, crab, crayfish, mussel, prawn, oyster, shrimp, cuttlefish, jellyfish, limpet, octopus, otter, porpoise or dolphin, walrus or whale. So when you think about unclean fish or unclean animals in the sea, if you hear the term bottom feeder, you're not supposed to eat that, because they feed on the bottom of the ocean floor, and they are essentially what cleans the ocean from east to west of other animals. So if you hear seafood, something that's a seafood and it says a bottom feeder, you need to put it back or ignore it. And one of the things you need to understand is that a lot of these things cleanse the ocean water. So when you look at lobster or shrimp or crabs, or especially crab, they are built to purify the water as they go through it. So one of the things we understand now what lobster and crabs are, because a lot of times heavy metals are in the water now, a lot of these crabs and lobster have heavy metal within them now. So they're able to purify the water with heavy metal. So when you eat a lobster or you eat a crab now, you gotta understand there are certain things you're taking in. So for example, there's a show I watch called The Deadliest Catch. They catch crab. What happens is when they start catching crab in their boats, they have 10 days to catch crab and then offload it. Because as soon as they offload it, they go to a processing plant and then they're shipped across the world within 48 hours. So that's why when you're thinking about king crabs, that's why they're so expensive, because they're probably from your plate, from when they caught, it's probably been like 15 days, 16 days. The problem is if you wait over 10 days in their boat, because they got like 3 big holes in their boat, and they're trying to catch each crab as soon as possible. So they'll do like a 48-hour shift where they just go for 48 hours fishing crab if they're really on it. What happens is if you wait more than 10 days in the boat, especially when you get to the 14 days, what happens is something get called dead loss. And what happens is the crab will die in the hole. And when that lobster crab dies, it explodes. So all the toxin that is in that crab now spreads to the other crabs. They die, and then they explode. And it's like a chain reaction, and it goes all the way down. So there's been some episodes where the captain pushed it to 14 days. He got into port, and half his hull is dead of dead crabs because those crabs had exploded in their hull. So this is to let you know that if a crabs explode and they're killing things beside it and they exploded, then we really shouldn't be eating it. So we need to be careful. So when we hear bottom feeders, we need to be very careful of that and make sure that we're not eating those things. So unclean birds, we have the albatross, the bittern, the buzzard, the condor, the coot, the cormorant, the crane, the crow, the cuckoo, the eagle, the flamingo, the grosbeak, the gull, the hawk, the heron, the kite, the lapwing, the loon, the magpie, the osprey, ostrich, owl, parrot, pelican, penguin, plover, rail, raven, roadrunner, sandpiper, seagull, stork, the swallow, the swift, the vulture, the water hen, and the woodpecker. So just bear with me because I'm sure y'all get all this so y'all can't say y'all didn't know. So now we got the clean stuff that if you're going to eat meat, this is the clean stuff, but there's some caveats to this. So you got chicken, dove, duck, goose, the grouse, the Guinean fowl, the partridge, the peafowl, the pheasants, the pigeon, the prairie chicken, the ptarmigan, the quail, the sage hen, the sparrow, they say other songbirds, the swan that has an asterisk by it because some people say no, some people say yes. I would say no, teal, and the turkey. And then, okay, so what I want to show here is when you eat the clean meat, you have to understand that when you do that, you're supposed to drain all the blood out of the animal, right? So you're not supposed to eat. So when you see people eating, medium rare and stuff like that, that's not how you're supposed to eat meat if you're going to eat meat. Now you got to understand when this was written, Bible times and stuff they eat and to where we are right now, it's really two different things. So really, if you're eating meat, you really should come off it, even if it's clean, just because we have so many things being recalled because of certain diseases and stuff like that. So when I used to work for the government, I used to work for the USDA and the conservation program, but there were websites that within internally that always show what things are being recalled every month. Now, usually it makes it to the news when it's like, 1 million pounds of this stuff is being recalled, so we need to recall this, or 2 million pounds of this has been affected or has this disease, so we're going to recall it. But what you need to understand is there was stuff on that site every month. But just because it didn't get to like 1 million pounds, it didn't make it to the national news. But it was like 50,000 pounds of this in Michigan and Wisconsin is being recalled of this. 75,000 pounds of this is recalled the next month. 100,000 pounds is being recalled the month. It was always like 4 or 5 things being recalled of either be chicken, pork, beef, whatever you want to call it. It was always being recalled. And it was never a month where it was nothing on that list, on that website that wasn't being recalled. And it was in different parts of the country. So one time I'd be on the East Coast. The next month it may be on the West Coast. Next month it may be here in the Central Plains. So you need to understand that as this world is going up in flames pretty much, you got to understand that the meat that is out there, even the clean meat, is not healthy to eat anymore. So one of the things we know about, especially the cows, is mad cow disease. So what you need to understand about mad cow disease is like a degenerative nerve type condition of the animal, Once they start exhibiting symptoms of that, it doesn't matter how well you cook the meat because now it has gone from the blood into the meat. So once it gets into the meat of the cow, you can burn it to a crisp. And if you eat it, you'll still have a chance of catching that mad cow disease. I forgot, there's a human version of this, and I forgot what they called it. But you can still catch that. So any animal you see that is degenerative, can't walk, has issues standing and stuff like that, more likely has some kind of neurological condition with them. And those are types of animals that we should avoid. So some of those things you need to keep in mind. Like I said, yeah, but you should be working yourself off of this stuff. That's the best way. That's the best way I can put it. You should be in the process right now of coming off clean meat if you're eating clean meat. That's the best. That's the best advice I can give you right now. So let's look at our scripture reading again, which is found in Matthew chapter 4, verses 1 to 4. Matthew chapter 4, verses 1 to 4. Then was Jesus led up of the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted of the devil. And when he had fasted 40 days and 40 nights, he was afterward and hungered. And when the tempter came to him, he said, If thou be the Son of God, command that these stones be made bread. But he answered and said, It is written, Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God. As we read this, Satan is tempting Christ to turn stone into bread after fasting for 40 days. It's kind of interesting that in all the sermons I have heard of Christ being tempted in the wilderness, you hardly hear any sermons preached on the first temptation that Christ faced, which was turning stone into bread. It would seem to me that if appetite is the main reason for the fall of man, the health message is, and then the health message is then supposed to be the right on of the gospel. I will believe there will be a greater emphasis on the health message and appetite within our church. As a church, we have done like Nadab and Abu and followed the world's example and custom of eating and drinking instead of instructing the world of God's dietary plan and example. Let's turn to Romans 12:2. Again, Romans chapter 12, verse 2. And be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. Too oftentimes we find ourselves following the world example of eating instead of following the Lord's plan. We get caught up in these different types of diets and end up worse than when we started. So then our brain has to divert resources to counteract the damage that was done by the decisions made without the counsel of God. So I'm going to go over a few diets I was researching that seem to be kind of popular right now. A couple of these I never heard of before, but I guess they're popular right now. So the first one I'm going to go over is called the moon diet, the werewolf diet, or the lunar diet. So this is like new to me. So it says, whatever you want to call it, it goes like this. For 24 hours during a full moon, you consume only water and juice. During the waning moon, you eat a balanced diet while drinking 8 glasses of water daily. With the new moon comes 24 more hours of eliminating solid food, plus drinking detox tea. The lunar diet finishes out with the waxing moon, which comes with a completely new set of strict rules, no eating after 6 p.m., as well as restricting calories as much as possible. So that's out there somewhere. I never heard of it before, but I guess people are following it. So the next one, which we should, as Adventists, know a little bit about, but the world's kind of put a twist on it in the wrong way. That's intermittent fasting methods. There are several different ways of doing the intermittent fasting, all of which involve splitting the day or week into eating and fasting periods. These are the most popular methods. The 16-by-8 method, also called the lean gains protocol, it involves skipping breakfast and restricting your daily eating to 8 hours, such as between 1 and 9 p.m. Then you fast for 16 hours in between. Eat, stop, eat involves fasting for 24 hours once or twice a week, for example, by not eating from dinner one day to dinner the next day. And then you have the 5-2 diet, which with this method, you consume only 500 to 600 calories on 2 non-consecutive days of the week, but eat normally the other 5 days of the week. So the thing about the intermittent fasting is not a bad thing, but how they got it is wrong. You're supposed to eat breakfast. That's the most important meal of the day. Furthermore, your metabolism burns the most in the morning. So you want to eat your breakfast. And then you want to space your meal out about 6 hours, and then you eat in the afternoon, 2 or 3. Depending on what you're doing in the evening, say if you go work out or something like that, then you may want to have like a little small meal around about 6 or 7. So I know some people will eat 6 in the morning, go to about 12 noon or 1 o'clock, and then come back and eat a very small meal, like a fruit salad or something like that, or a smoothie in the evening. And then some will eat at 8 or 9, eat at 2 or 3, and don't eat again until the next morning for breakfast. So if you're going to do the intermittent fasting, you should do it where dinner is, if you're going to skip a meal, is dinner, because you don't want to go to sleep on a full meal, on your full stomach, because then your body doesn't digest that food, and then it sits overnight, and it putrefies, and then you wake up the next morning. That's why you're sluggish in the morning. So you like 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night, you eat a big meal, and you wake up the next day, and you just sluggish, you can't move, because that food has not digested. It just sat in your stomach all night. And now that you're up, now your stomach has to digest the food. So something like that, in that case, you may have to skip breakfast just because you need that food to digest, because if that food's been sitting in your stomach all night, and then you come back the next morning, eat breakfast, well, what your body does, it take care of the food that came in last. So it's going to take care of that breakfast, digest that, and get rid of that, and then it's going to come back to the food you ate the night before. Well, by that time, it's like 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, still sitting in your stomach. So be careful about how you eat your foods. Fasting is not a bad thing, but you got to do it properly and the way the Lord has lined it out. The next diet is the blood type diet. So based on your blood type is what you eat. So the food guidelines are broken down based on your blood type. So type O is meant to eat high protein, lean meat, poultry, fish, and vegetables. Type A has fruits, vegetables, beans, legumes, and whole grains. Type B is restricted to green vegetables, eggs, certain meats, and low-fat dairy. And then type AB should eat tofu, seafood, dairy, and green beans. So I don't know how you put tofu and seafood in the same thing and think that's okay. So this is kind of the weird things you see out there. So let's turn to our Bible. I'm going to read something real quick. Proverbs 23. Proverbs 23, we're going to read verse 1. Still have some pages turning. Proverbs chapter 23. We're going to read verse 1. It says, "When thou sittest to eat with a ruler, consider diligently what is before thee." And I can switch out a ruler and say, when thou sittest to eat with the world, consider diligently what they put before you. Because you got to be very careful about some of the stuff that's out there, because they'll have you messed up and you way worse off than what you was before. So we know what the world has put out there. So what does God have to say about what should we eat and stuff like that? So we're going to turn to Daniel chapter 1. Daniel chapter 1. And then we're going to read 8 to 17, and then we're going to read Daniel chapter 10, verses 2 and 3. Daniel chapter 1. And this is what a lot of people in the world consider the Daniel diet or the Daniel fast. So Daniel chapter 1, verses 8 through 17. And it reads, "But Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with the portion of the king's meat, nor with the wine which he drank. Therefore he requested the prince of the eunuchs that he might not defile himself. Now God had brought Daniel into favor and tender love with the prince of the eunuchs. And the prince of the eunuchs said unto Daniel, I fear my lord the king, who hath appointed your meat and your drink. For why should he see your face worse like him than the children which are of your sort? Then shall ye make me endanger my head to the king. Then said Daniel to Melazar, whom the prince of the eunuchs had set over Daniel, Hananiah, and Mishael, and Azariah, prove thy servants, I beseech thee, 10 days, and let them eat, give us pulse, or vegetables, to eat, and water to drink. Then let our countenance be looked upon before thee, and the countenance of the children that ate of the portion of the king's meat. And as thou seest, deal with thy servants. So he consented to them in this manner, and proved them 10 days. And at the end of the 10 days, their countenance appeared fairer and fatter and fleshed than all the children which did eat the portion of the king's meat. Thus Melazar took away the portion of their meat and the wine that they should drink, and gave them pulse, which is vegetables. And as for these 4 children, God gave them knowledge and skill in all learning and wisdom, and Daniel had understanding in all dreams and visions, in all visions and dreams. So here we see that they was offered the king's meat and drink, which is wine and alcohol and that stuff. But Daniel said, give us 10 days to prove that what we eat is better, which was basically vegetables and water. And so when they did the test for 10 days, and they came back, and they look a lot fairer and better than their counterparts who had eaten the king's meat and wine. And because of that, their knowledge and skill was increased, and learning and wisdom was definitely on display, because their mind was a lot clearer, because they wasn't being affected by the king's meat. So let's move over to Daniel chapter 10. Daniel chapter 10, we're going to read verses 2 and 3. And it reads, In those days, I, Daniel, was mourning 3 full weeks. I ate no pleasant bread, neither came flesh nor wine in my mouth, neither did I anoint myself at all till 3 whole weeks were fulfilled. So in this passage, Daniel is fasting for 3 weeks, and as you can see, he's not eating any pleasant bread, or in this day, we could say sweet bread or something sweet, cinnamon rolls, whatever. No wine, no alcohol. And those 2 scriptures is what the world called the Daniel fast or the Daniel diet. That's how they combine those 2 together. But where did Daniel originally get this from? So let's go to Genesis chapter 1. And God give us an idea of what he intended for us to be, our diet to be. We're going to read 1, verse 28, Genesis chapter 1, verse 28. And it reads, And God blessed them, and God said unto them, Be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over, am I reading the right thing? 29, thank you. I don't know why I got 29, thank you. And behold, and God said, Behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree in the which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed, and it shall be for meat, and not meaning meat like animal, but meat for food. And then I want to go over to 3:18. Genesis chapter 3, verse 18. Thorns also some thistles shall it bring forth to thee, and thee shall eat the herb of the field. So let's go into a little bit more better explanation of those 2 verses. So, behold, I have given you every herb, and this is a description of what the verse was, how the verse is broken down. Behold, I have given you every herb, a plant without a strong woody stem, bearing seed, is generally understood to mean grains, wheat, oats, corn, rice, rye, barley, millet, etc. seeds, sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds, sesame, and flax. Legumes, soybeans, kidney beans, lentils, split peas, peanuts, and etc. And other foods containing seed, some of which are vegetables today, which is eggplant, bell pepper, pumpkins, cucumbers, tomatoes, okra, squash, melons. In every tree, a plant with a strong woody stem, such as a shrub, bush, or tree, in which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. This is generally understood to mean fruits, orange, lemons, cranberries, apples, pears, mangoes, strawberries, dates, cherries, blueberries, bananas, coconut, avocados, olives, etc., and nuts, almonds, pecans, cashews, walnuts, chestnuts, pine nuts, Brazil nuts, and etc. And in Genesis 3:18, this is really understood mean leafy, flower, and root vegetables. So we're talking about lettuce, spinach, parsley, fennel, beets, Brussels sprouts, watercress, broccoli, cauliflower, carrots, turnips, potatoes, garlic, onions. This was very wise on God's part because many of the vegetables contains medicinal properties that are necessary to sustain us in a sinful, polluted world. So after the fall of man, God brought forth vegetables for men to eat. And a lot of times, if you go read some of this stuff, the supplement stuff they have y'all take, a lot of times they have components of this down at the very bottom, but they got all this other fancy words at the top, and you're thinking you're doing something new, and it's really not new. They just took something that's already there and just added to what they're doing in a kind of a more powerful way. So one of the things about, they got these pills on the market, and they talk about weight loss, right? You take this pill, you lose a whole bunch of weight, and you do all this stuff. So, okay, you see all these little fancy ingredients on it, and you say, okay, this must really work because I'm losing weight. And then at the toward the bottom, you'll see something like B6 or B12. Well, if you know anything about your B vitamins speed up your metabolism. So they just stuck that at the very end, put a whole bunch of words up front, and you think you got something new. It's really nothing new. You just need to go get some B6 or some B12s, probably save like $30 or $40 on what they give you versus just knowing what you need in your body. So you need to understand that the stuff that the food that we eat makes who we are. So once you understand that, then you can adjust your eating habits accordingly. So this is the reason why we emphasize gardening here at the church, because a lot of the foods now are GMO. Well, a lot of your GMOs are not nutritionists. They have no nutrients in them. So when you eat something from the store versus something that you grow out of your garden, there is a big difference. Big difference in taste, big difference in the density of the food. It's a lot more dense. So when you eat a tomato from your garden versus a tomato from the store, tomato from your garden is way more meaty, has a lot more meat to it. So we need to understand that we need to get back to growing our own food, because the way the government is doing it right now, you would not get the nutritional value that you need from your food. I know Pastor Haynes said sometimes there's some foods they only put they're supposed to have 7 nutrients in it and they're only putting 2 in. So let's be careful about what we're eating. Let's get back to growing our own stuff. If you can't grow your own stuff right now, try to buy organic type stuff. I forgot there's a labeling system on your barcodes on your organic type stuff. So if you see a 9, you know it's organic. If you see 4, that's conventional. 5, I think, is GMO or something like that. So I had to dig that up. So I got it buried somewhere in my notes. But if you see a 9 on the barcode on your vegetables, on your fruit, 9 means organic. If you see 4, 5, that means conventional or GMO. Mexico sometimes put their state code in front of their number. So if you see a 9 or 4 in bigger font than the rest of the numbers, then you know that's from Mexico, but it's organic. So the 9 was always big. The 9 would always be bigger than the rest of the numbers after it. The 4 or 5 will always be bigger than the numbers after it. So you look at that first number. 9 is organic, 4 is conventional, 5 is GMO. Just to keep that knowledge in hand. All right. So the reason I'm bringing all this up is because I firmly believe that what we put in our body affects our mind, and whatever affects our mind affects our relationship with Christ. So one of the things the different names for it. I'm gonna go by brain fog, but they, stupor, whatever. Some people say the itis, whatever you want to call it, is when your brain is really clouded and you don't have good judgment. So Brain fog can affect a variety of mental functions. As an individual, you can experience only some or all of the symptoms that can vary in intensity from day to day or even hour to hour. The symptoms which sufferers describe most often are lack of concentration, slow and hazy thinking, easily derailed by interruptions, inability to focus, forgetfulness, both in daily living, and an inability to remember facts, for example, when studying or even in a conversation. Also, confusion, disorientation. Poor spatial awareness, all of the above affects your ability to process information and function normally when you need to organize, plan, and solve problems. Eventually, this can lead to feelings of hopelessness and depression and anxiety. So you could be in this brain fog for so long that you actually put yourself into a depression. So something to keep in mind. So foods that help to beat brain fog. Nutritional yeast is high in folate, a B vitamin linked with healthy fetal brain development and overall cognitive improvement. Well, I'll leave it. Turmeric. Turmeric contains curcumin, an antioxidant that may prevent the development and accumulation of plaque formation linked with Alzheimer's. And spinach. Spinach is high in lutein, an antioxidant that protects the brain from free radical damage and inflammation. Avocado is rich in vitamin E, which has been shown to show slow cognitive decline in the elderly. Celery contains lutein, a flavonoid antioxidant that protects the brain from inflammation, cognitive aging, and neurodegenerative diseases. And then rosemary is high in carnosic acid, a cytochemical that enhances learning and spatial memory, reduces antioxidant stress, and prevents neuron damage. So a couple more things that can help with that. I don't have them on the screen, but I'll read them here. So you got B complex vitamins and vitamin C. 2010 study published in Psychopharmacology shows that a high dose of B complex vitamins taken with vitamin C are critical for brain health and are directly tied to an improvement in mood. The study authors noted vitamin C is the brain's most prevalent antioxidant and is found at its greatest concentration in neuron-rich areas. So I know for me, I take vitamin C every day. I take 1,000 milligrams. Vitamin C is a water-soluble type vitamin, which means that your body will kick out what it doesn't need. Versus a vitamin A, I think vitamin A is a fat-soluble, which means it retains that and keeps it in your body. That's why I have to be careful against, with vitamins, you gotta make sure you know what you're taking. So you're taking a fat-soluble or you're taking a water-soluble. Fat-soluble, you're gonna have to monitor how much you're taking in a day. You might have to get that checked every so often. Water solubles, your body takes what it needs and it kicks out the rest. Next thing to help with brain fog is zinc. Studies have shown that zinc may prevent Alzheimer's disease and dementia by preventing buildup of beta amyloid plaques. Accumulation of these plaques can lead to Alzheimer's. Another thing that helps with brain fog is your vitamin Ds and omega-3s. For those low in serotonin, vitamin D acts as a hormone to help release more neurotransmitters such as serotonin, which may help improve mood and fend off depression. Optimizes serotonin concentrations in the brain by pairing vitamin D with omega-3. This combination may help prevent and modulate neurological disorders and help improve cognitive function. So for those who don't know, I had a vitamin D deficiency when it was a few years ago. So we're out in the country, farming, gardening, whatever you want to call it. So I'm always out in the sun. And I had some issues going on. I couldn't figure out what's going on. So I called my mom. My mom called me, and I said a prayer. I said, okay, Lord, what's going on? Just let me know what it is. And before I can get the prayer finished, my mom calls. And I'm just sitting there thinking like, I picked up the phone and said, hey, Mom. He said, hey, what's going on? Then I used to ask him what's going on. So how are your vitamin D levels? I said, I think my vitamin D levels are fine. I'm out in the garden all the time. I'm out in the sun. I'm out in the country. I think my vitamin D levels are perfect or fine. I should have no issue. I was like, okay, I'm just asking. Something to ask. I'm just asking. I said, okay. So I hung up the phone, and the Lord was like, okay, you asked me to give you a sign. I gave you a sign. So I went and got my vitamin D levels checked. Uh, the bare minimum for your vitamin D should be like at a 30 IU, 30. Really, they want you at a 40 and above. I was at a 9. Now, mind you, I'm out in the garden like every day. We out in Holden. I'm like in the sun, sweating. Got to cut 4 acres on my riding lawnmower, so I'm out in the sun all the time. So how does me be out in the sun all the time have a level of 9? So they had to give me D2 tablets, big course pills I had to take like once a week, 50,000 IUs once a week for 12 weeks. And then after that, I've been taking vitamin Ds over the counter. I take like 1,000 a day. And it pretty much keeps me where I need to be. So we need to understand about vitamin D. They say vitamin D is a vitamin, but it's actually a hormone that helps your body, regulates your body. So if you're low in vitamin Ds, I would suggest that you get your vitamin D levels checked, see where you're at, and then from there, the doctor can give you what you need to prescribe. But more importantly, a lot of green vegetables have a lot of vitamin Ds, but obviously being out in the sun every day helps. Chlorophyll-rich foods. Chlorophyll is the green blood of plants. Nearly identical to our own blood, chlorophyll delivers an oxidating energy transfusion into our bloodstream, providing our cells with long-lasting vitality. This course of optimizes our brain function. The darker the leafy green, the more chlorophyll within. Green up your life with a fresh salad or juice. So some of the green chlorophyll type vegetables they're talking about is kale. Kale is very rich in this. Swiss chard, arugula. I grow arugula every year. Didn't know why. I just started growing it. I saw a package. Oh, that sounds interesting. Let me grow it. I had no idea why I was growing it. But now I understand why I'm growing it. Parsley, cilantro, sprouts. And at the next level, we have the nutrient-dense type algae, such as blue-green algae, spirulina, and then chlorella. So I know some people, the new thing now, the new thing is juicing. Juicing is not bad, but it can't replace actual eating food. So I know some people go on a juice fast. All they do is do juicing for a certain amount of time. I know I had a fraternity brother of mine. He did juicing for 30 days, but he had a lot of health issues. So for him, juicing for 30 days really helped him kind of reset his body. And then after that, he went completely plant-based. Lost like 130, 140 pounds after that. So it's a situation like that that's okay. But I know, I forgot who it was on TV, said they did it for 30 days, juicing. And then when they tried to go back to eating food, they had issues eating food because your body got used to only digesting juice. So now your body had to take a little time to get back to actually digesting food. So if you're going to, juicing should be like a supplement to what you're doing already. It shouldn't replace what you're doing. If you're going to do it, maybe a week or two is probably the best. Once you start pushing up to 30 days, then your body, then you're going to go through a little period of, I don't know, indigestion, where you want to call it, until your body gets used to breaking down actual food again. So keep that in mind when you're doing juicing. There's a nice, like we got the intermittent fasting, so you're eating a breakfast in the morning, eat a meal early afternoon, and maybe do like a little juice in the evening around about 6. I wouldn't do juice around about 8 or 9 because it's still calorie intake. So around 6 is probably where you want to do that at. Just something to keep in mind. Essential fatty acids, and one more thing I forgot to put here, wheatgrass is also an excellent source of chlorophyll. Wheatgrass is also an excellent source of dealing with cancer. There's a lot of research out there that's now showing that if you eat organic wheatgrass, it can help with the reduction of cancer cells in your body. Foods high in omega-3 fatty acids play a vital role in brain function. There are 3 types of omega-3 acids, LAA, EPA, and DHA, each of which have their own benefits. DHA is our highlight here, which is found in fatty fish such as wild salmon, sardines, tuna, mackerel, and trout. DHA is also critical for brain memory and brain nutrition. So we do not produce DHA in our bodies. We need to eat natural sources. So other sources of that is flax seeds, hemp seeds, chia seeds, and then walnuts. So you don't have to go to the fish to get your DHA. There's other ways to get your DHA.
It also comes from like the algae and stuff.
Algae.
Algae and what's the other seaweed?
So for those who's watching on the social media, somebody in the audience said you can get your DHA from algae and also from seaweed. It's another good source of your DHA. Healthy carbs. Healthy carbs are brown rice, sweet potatoes, or whole grains like oatmeal, give you energy in the form of glucose. These brain-friendly complex carbs have a low glycemic index, which is the rate at which sugar from food enters the brain and body cells. So, you hear bad carbs, healthy carbs. A lot of times when they say healthy carbs, a lot of times they mean complex carbs that your body has to break down, not the simple sugar which you eat and go straight to into your bloodstream. So foods that cause brain fog. So these are the foods that we need to avoid. Bacon is one of the things we need to cut out. It has sodium nitrite and sodium nitrate and sodium, potassium, or salts added to processed foods, particularly meats, to preserve freshness. They are approved by the FDA, although a large number of health complaints have been reported by consumers, among them skin issue, respiratory problems, headaches, dizziness, and brain fog. Try making one of these easy and brain fog recipes instead. So what we need to understand is that your processed meat, and the reason, if you look back in the 1880s, 1870s, 1860s, they needed salt to preserve food. You don't need that now. So any processed food or processed meat, we need to make sure that we get off those right away because they do cause a ton of health issues. Another one is dairy. Many people are sensitive to dairy products like milk, cheese, and yogurt. Sensitive doesn't mean allergic, though. If you experience symptoms of brain fog, headaches, or digestive discomfort, when you eat a specific type of food, you may have a sensitivity, but not necessarily an allergy. For people with sensitivities or allergies to these foods, the body sees the protein as a threat and produces antibodies to chase them out. They say try switching from cow's milk, try almond, also soy milk and stuff like that. Is a good substitute for that. MSG, which I don't think is used a lot anymore. I hope not. They are? Oh, well. So technically, it's not a food, but it's an ingredient and can contribute to brain fog in a major way. By messing with your brain's neurotransmitters, the food additive monosodium glutamate, or MSG, used as a taste enhancer and flavor agent, is hidden in almost all processed foods, ranging from bottled salad dressing, soups, and canned goods to many restaurant meals. Avoid it by eating unprocessed natural whole foods. Next one, and I shouldn't have to say this, but alcohol. It should be obvious that we don't want alcohol in our system, but I'm gonna add a little additive to this. Sometimes as church members, we think that we want to be so close to the world that we try to cozy up right to it and then think we're okay. So where I'm going with this is virgin drinks. So sometimes we out with our friends or whatever, we don't want to drink, but we want to be like them, have something colorful in our hand, so we get virgin drinks. So I'm going to explain what happened to me one time when I was on a business trip. So I was on a business trip about 10, 12 years ago. I went on a business trip. Our company had rented out in the evening a nightclub / bar or something like that, one of the biggest ones in DC. So I get there, we setting up stuff, and I get there, and I was like, well, bartender came up, she was like, well, what do you want to drink? I said, I want a virgin strawberry daiquiri. That's what all Adventists drink, is virgin strawberry daiquiri. So I was like, and she was like, well, we don't do frozen drinks here. I was like, oh, well, what do you do? And so now I'm in a conversation with this woman for like 2 or 3 minutes talking about what to drink and what not to drink and all this other stuff. I should have just stopped right there. But I was like, okay, well, you know what? I was about to say, give me some water or give me some Sprite or something like that. And before I can get it out, she was like, oh, I got just a thing for you. I was like, what's that? She came and she goes and comes back with something. I said, this is a virgin mojito. So I was like, okay, so what's in a virgin mojito? I told her, I don't drink, so what's in a virgin mojito? Oh, usually we put, I think it's vodka or rum or something like that in there, some mint leaves, and then, but instead of the vodka, I just put Sprite in the mint leaves, and we should be good. So 6 or 7 drinks later, I'm very relaxed. I'm not drunk, but I'm very relaxed. And I'm sitting there thinking, so I'm trying to think about it myself. Okay, the next few days, it was the mint leaves because they were frozen. So they dipped the mint leaves in alcohol and froze them, and then they put them in the drink. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's just what they normally do. So she just put it in there and then put the Sprite over it. And I was like, and the thing about it is, with me being a diabetic, I like sweet stuff. So I know this bitter stuff right away, and alcohol is a bitter drink. Because I had other virgin drinks where alcohol was put in, and I was able to notice right away, even the smallest amount. And Jared can tell you one time, this one waiter, I'm like, listen, dude, he came back with the third time. I was like, I taste the alcohol. Just, okay, well, give me something else then, because he didn't want to keep going back and forth. Well, this time, it was like the devil was just dialing me in. And he got me to a point where I didn't recognize it. So, I was relying on my own self to detect the alcohol. And really what was happening was the devil was just reeling me in. He got me to a point where I couldn't distinguish between the drink or the alcohol. So I'm saying this because as Adventists and church people in general, we don't want to drink, but we want to be like everybody else, so we get that virgin drink. Well, that virgin drink might have alcohol in it. So you need to be cognizant of what you're doing and what you're drinking and what you're eating, and understand that nothing wrong with saying, I don't drink alcohol. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just, you got to have, and I know you're going to have to be, you will be different. You will stand out. I work in corporate America. A lot of times they do go out to eat and drink, and they usually go to bars and stuff like that. And I had to tell them, I don't drink. Just give me some Sprite, and we'll call it a day, or give me some water, and we'll call it a day. And a lot of people, they respect you for that, but you got to take that stand first. You never take that stand, and they never know how you feel on a certain subject. So don't be afraid to say, I don't drink. Don't feel like you had to have something colorful in your hands to be socially accepted by your coworkers or your peers. Just stand firm on what you believe in and what you practice, and you'll find out they respect you more for that than you trying to mix in and be with them. Because usually when you step into that type of arena, it's only going to be a matter of time before you end up on that road anyway, so it's just better not to get on it to begin with. So another thing that is detrimental is artificial sweeteners. Might be low-calorie alternative to natural sugar, but they're not without controversy, especially aspartame. When aspartame is ingested, it breaks down into 3 different components: aspartic acid, methanol, and I'm not going to try to say that word. When consumed, it's isolated in large amounts. As in aspartame. Then they are able to cross the blood-brain barrier, excite the brain cells, and trigger their death. Even worse, methanol further breaks down into formaldehyde, which are neurotoxic and carcinogenic. Symptoms of aspartame toxicity might include headaches, mental confusion, problems with balance and numbness. They say maybe out for some natural sugar, or just, matter of fact, don't honey, or there's other natural type stuff. You need something a little sweet. Let's go to Proverbs chapter 23, because I want to go there real quick. I want to read Proverbs chapter 23, 21, and I'm going to read 23, 2. Okay, Proverbs chapter 23, 21. And it says, for the drunkard and the glutton shall come to poverty, and drowsiness shall clothe a man with rags. And then Proverbs 23, 2. And it says, kind of dramatic here, but it says, put a knife to thy throat if thou be a man given to appetite. So if you're given to appetite, you might as well put a knife to your throat, because you're actually killing yourself. Pretty strong words from the word. So what are some lifestyle factors that cause brain fog? Probably the number one, lack of sleep. Evidence suggests that one of the critical functions of sleep is to restore and optimize neural connectivity. So sleep is absolutely essential for learning and memory. You don't have to be an expert to know that your alertness and thought processes suffer after a night of no or very little sleep. The reduced brain activity after sleep deprivation can even be seen in brain scans. The problem comes in when you don't get enough sleep over a long period of time and get used to how you feel. We trade in sleep to get more in time, demands in work or school or fit other activities. So, with work and stuff like that, we always try to sacrifice our sleep to get more work in. Adults need 7 or more hours of sleep a night for optimal health and well-being. A recent study by the Center for Disease Control found that about a third of Americans average less than 7 hours of sleep per night. And not only do you need 7 hours of sleep, you need to get to sleep around 10 o'clock at night. Because what they found out is for every hour you sleep before midnight, it's like 2 hours. So if you go to sleep at 10, even though you slept for 2 hours, your body actually feels like it's been sleeping for 4 hours. So every hour before midnight is 2 hours, is actually 2 hours of sleep for your body. Obviously, we've been talking about diet. A poor diet with lots of sugar and refined carbohydrates with too little protein, fruits, and vegetables to supply nutrients your brain needs can result in brain fog. So one of the things, the other shows I watch is The Alaska Last Frontier. My homesteaders stay out there gardening and stuff like that. The parents stay there, most of the kids stay there. One kid left, and he was gone for a long time, and then he came back. So that first year back, he had to get his cabin together. He had to do his food. He had a nice garden. What happens is it starts snowing in Alaska by like beginning of October. Well, he didn't get his vegetables harvested in time, so it just snowed all over all his stuff. And he was kind of a little lazy the first season. So he had his brother come help him one time, his cousin help another time. The cousin got mad because he's like, listen, we only got like a 5-month window. I need you to be on your game so I can be on my game and get all my stuff done. I can't be stopping what I'm doing to come help you because you're not moving fast enough. So what happened was he didn't get any red meat for the winter. His wife was able to fish and get fish. But towards the end of the summer, and I think that's where the brain fog came in, because up in Alaska, they have fresh salmon and fresh cod, which are clean fish that you can eat, and it hasn't been contaminated yet. So his wife had caught a lot of cod. Towards the end of the end of the winter, they ran out of food, and he got tired of eating that fresh cod. So he traded his his last piece of cod, for a pigeon, and that's what he ate. And I was sitting there thinking, like, you got people in the lower 48 who will kill to have some fresh cod, and you trade it to eat a pigeon. But when you're not eating properly, this is what happens. That brain fog sets in, and then you're doing stuff that you would never do, you think you were doing. Suffice it to say, then they end up having to catch rabbit and hare, and their rabbits up there in Alaska are like this. And they ate that for the rest of the winter. Come spring, he ended up having to go to the doctor. Doctor found out, and doctor said, oh, you got scurvy. And it's like, what is scurvy? I said, it's deficient of vitamin C because you don't eat enough vegetables. And doctor's like, we ain't had a case of scurvy in 100 years up here. So, so he was like, what did you do over the winter? And so suffice to say, they told him, kind of reintroduced him to what's supposed to be going on up there. And he finally, like when that spring broke, boy, he had his garden in. He had like a tent and everything. He was gone. I was like, yeah. But one of the cousins the next season said, yeah, kind of like a misnomer up here in Alaska is when we homestead, all we do is eat meat. And she said, that's not it. She said, we have 400 pounds of meat, 200 is red meat, 200 is like fish, like salmon and cod. She said, outside of that, we have 400 pounds of vegetables that we have to make sure we collect before winter sets in. So from the outside world, we thinking all they do is eat meat up there, but really the most important food group for them up there is vegetables, because they're so hard to come by because of the area that they live in. They can get meat anywhere. There's animals running around anywhere up there, but the vegetable is the key component as to what they need. Because if you talk to people, I think some bodybuilders will tell you, they eat a lot of meat, but they eat a lot of vegetables too, because they need that vegetable to break down the meat. So they'll tell you they eat a lot of vegetables. They may have slightly more vegetables on their plate than they do have that meat. So just one of the things we as a church people and as vendors, we need to understand vegetables is the way to go, and not get caught up in what we're seeing in the world, because sometimes we get misinformation. Another thing that caused the brain fog, and I was kind of surprised, was dehydration. It says water makes up 73% of your brain. Even mild dehydration causes an imbalance in the whole body. We have all seen how some runners are confused and disoriented at the end of a marathon. However, studies have shown that even 2% dehydration can affect mental performance. Mild dehydration can alter concentration, alertness, short-term memory, and perception. So if you don't drink enough water to top up your body's fluid, this can be contributing to your brain fall. So you need to make sure you're drinking enough water during the day. And you'll hear different calculations of what are you supposed to drink. Some say 8 glasses of water a day. Some people say take half your body weight and drink that in ounces. That's what you're supposed to drink a day. Some people another guy said, drink water until your fluids are clear. Because you never know, because 8 glasses of water a day might be enough if you haven't been drinking water at all. So you might need to drink more water. So we need to make sure that we're consuming enough water during the day so we don't get dehydrated. Stress. The body releases cortisol, or the fight or flight hormone, in response to stressful situations. Under normal circumstances, this response is switched off when the danger is past. With the ongoing daily stresses of modern life, there can be a continuous flood of cortisol throughout the body. The stress response is never shut off, and this contributes to many health problems. Some of the known effects of increased levels of cortisol are already included in the causes of brain fall discussed above. So increased inflammation, insomnia, which can lead to a lack of sleep, increased utilization of various micronutrients, such as magnesium, and your diet just usually don't keep up. So stress could be one of those things that can lead to brain fall, especially when we don't know how to turn it off when we leave work. There's another component of corporate America. So if we don't understand how to deal with stress in an effective way, they can be one of those things that can cause us to be, I wouldn't say brain fall is more of you just rattle and you just can't think straight. You got five different things going on. And it's kind of funny because in some circles of project management, some go with an agile methodology of doing project work, because they found out that, what's the word I want to use here? You're trying to do multiple things at one time. They found out that doing that produces good work. So in agile, they take one person, he concentrates on one thing, and once he's done with that one thing, he moves on to the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. And when you try to multitask, everything doesn't get your full attention. That means everything is not getting the proper thing. So therefore, things might not be as sharp or well-rounded out as it needs to be, because you multitasking, versus if you concentrate on one thing, you can focus on that and complete the task. Is done very well. So that's why in agile methodology, they'll have 2-week. Like normal project management, they'll tell you they'll do something, and like after 6 months, they'll release something into production. Agile, they'll say we'll do something after 2 weeks. Have the customers look at it. If they're fine, move on to the next sprint, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks. And every third sprint, they may release something into production. But they break it down into 2-week sprints so people can actually look at it and make sure that we're doing the right thing, versus, hey, you get 6 months down the line, and then you show it to the customer, and the customer's like, well, I didn't want the box there. I actually kind of want it over here because it looks better over here. Well, if you do it in sprints, you can catch that right away. But then that's where you want to get away from multitasking. Multitasking can be very stressful because you're trying to complete multiple deadlines at once. So it's one of the things to keep in mind. Another thing with corporate America, sedentary lifestyles. We sit all day at the computer screen looking at whatever. It says this type gets tell you to get you need to exercise, you need to get up and walk. I'm starting to every so often I got to stand because I'm sitting for so long. When it stops raining, and there's an area where I work at where I can actually go walking. But it says you need to do some kind of regular exercise if you have this kind of lifestyle, sedentary. This type exercise gets your heart pumping and causes you to break into a mild sweat. It boosts the parts of your brain that are involved in thinking, memory, and learning. Recent researchers also found that people who spend many hours sitting had thinning of the parts of the brain responsible for memory formation. Sitting is seen as the new smoking. We need movement to increase blood flow and therefore oxygen to the brain, and to stimulate the hormone responsible for the growth of new brain cells. Exercise also burns up cortisol and releases epinephrines, or happy hormones. It can combat brain fog by reducing inflammation, improving mood and sleep, and counteracting stress and anxiety. So if you work in corporate America, you need to do some kind of exercise. And whatever exercise you do probably needs to have some kind of cardio aspect to it. So you just can't go to the gym and lift weights all day without doing any cardio. You need to do cardio. Best way to do cardio is to be outside, walking, running, whatever you want to do it. I'm not going to get into the whole running debate right now, but you need to be outside doing something. You need to do some kind of cardio. When I got diagnosed with diabetes. He was a young doctor too, it was kind of surprising, but he's like, listen, I don't care what you do. You just need to go exercise. I don't care what exercise you do, whatever you need to do, but you need to go exercise because that's the best way to combat it. And then when I went to the gym, because I went to the gym, started lifting weights, another guy was like, I don't care what you do, but you need to do cardio, 20 minutes of cardio every day. Or else whatever else you do in the gym doesn't matter. So you need to do 20 minutes of cardio every day or however that looks like. So that's one of the things we need to incorporate back into our lives. That's why gardening is such a helpful aspect because it has us outside exercising, using our limbs. I know when I started gardening every time for the first year, because I haven't squat or bend over all winter and all that stuff, my hamstrings are like on fire for like the first week, like all of them, like from my kneecap all the way up. It's hard as a rock because I haven't squatted or bent over in so long. So gardening does help within that area. It doesn't seem like you're burning calories and stuff like that, but when you're out in the sun working, it actually does. Another aspect is hormonal changes, mostly dealing with women. Pregnancy and menopause changes in the levels of estrogen and progesterone are known to lead to changes in memory and concentration. A lack of thyroid hormone is also associated with brain fog. Keep those together. Medications. Brain fog is a side effect commonly reported for prescription as some over-the-counter medicines. It is most common with medications that are prescribed for mental problems. This includes sleeping pills, antidepressant, as well as anti-anxiety medication. Cognitive impairment has also been reported with certain blood pressure medications, such as your statins, which are prescribed for lowering cholesterol. Acetylcholine, I'm trying to say this word, is an important brain chemical for short-term memory and recall. Anticholinergics, blocks its action and can cause symptoms of brain fog. Many prescription medicines are anticholinergic. They are also widely available as over-the-counter medication for conditions including allergies, motion sickness, diarrhea, nausea, and vomiting, acid reflux, and insomnia. So all those types of medication can cause brain fog. And then medical conditions, brain fog can be one of the symptoms of a number of medical conditions, including conditions associated with inflammation, such as chronic fatigue, syndrome, fibromyalgia, anemia, diabetes, autoimmune, migraine, Alzheimer's, and age-related cognitive impairment. So these are the types of lifestyle factors that can cause brain fog, and one of the reasons why we need to take all these things seriously. So lack of sleep, I know that's a big thing for me. I tend not to sleep my 7 hours. So that's one of the things I'm trying to work on. I'm still working on. Dehydration, that kind of caught me by surprise when I was doing this. I'm always drinking water, but now I'm even now more on it to make sure I keep my water. And of course the medications and stuff like that. So the maintenance medication is there to keep you coming back to them. If you actually go and do and eat right, then you won't have to worry about taking maintenance medication. And a lot of those medications are now starting to prove to have like bad side effects. So a lot of the statins they're talking about now, they first came out in the early 2000s with the not over-the-counter, but the pill form for diabetes. A lot of that came out around the same time. So now we got 15 years in, so now they actually got hard data to say, okay, this stuff is kind of dangerous now or it doesn't work. So something to keep in mind. Let's go to Deuteronomy 12:25 as I get ready to wrap up. Chapter 12, verse 25. Deuteronomy chapter 12, verse 25, and it reads, Thou shalt not eat it, that it may go well with thee, and with thy children after thee, when thou shalt do that which is right in the sight of the Lord. So we need to understand is as we eating stuff, we got to understand that carries over to our children. So if we're prone to diabetes or as a diabetic, then we need to understand that we need to change how we're eating, because those factors get passed on to our children. And if we continue to eat bad and do that stuff, it gets passed on to our children. And if our children see us eating bad, then it gets passed on to their. It's like a chain reaction, and it gets harder and harder. As more it gets entrenched, the harder it is to break. So we need to understand that what we eat does affect our children, affects our grandchildren. So it's one of the things we need to keep in mind, especially the younger people who haven't had children yet. You need to understand that what you eat does affect your child that you're going to have later on in life. Spirit of prophecy quote, I have two of them and then we'll end. Those who will gratify their appetites and then suffer because of their intemperance and take drugs to relieve them may be assured that God would not interpose to save health and life, which are so recklessly periled. The cause have produced the effect. Many, as their last resort, follow the directions in the Word of God and request the prayers of the elders of the church for their restoration to health. God does not see fit to answer prayers offered in behalf of such, for he knows if they should be restored to health, they would again sacrifice it upon the altar of unhealthy appetite. So you need to be serious. So if you're going to be going to the elders for prayer for your health issues, you need to make sure you're going to, after the prayer is given, that you're going to make the right decisions and the right eating habit, the right lifestyle changes so you can be better. Because if you don't, the Lord is not going to honor that prayer. Next one, I'm going to read. It must be kept before the people that the right balance of the mental and moral power depends in great degree on the right conditions of the physical system. All narcotics and unnatural stimulants that enfeeble and degrade the physical nature tend to lower the tone of the intellect and morals. Intemperance lies at the foundation of the moral depravity of the world. By the indulgence of perverted appetite, man loses his power to resist temptation. Temperance reformers have a work to do in educating the people in these lines. Teach them that health, character, and even life are endangered by the use of stimulants which excite the exhausted energies to unnatural and spasmodic action. And again, this is from Ministry of Healing, page 335. So I hope this was informational. Hope it was understood that what we eat affects our brain. What affects our brain then reflects our but it inhabits our relationship with God. So if our brain is cloudy, unfocused, and not alert, then the Lord can't talk to us, because the Lord talks to us through our frontal lobe. So if we're eating unhealthy, that affects our frontal lobe, and then we won't be able to hear the Lord. And we need to be in a position, as we see in these times, that we need to be in good health so we can hear the Lord speak to us to say, hey, don't do this, or go do this. But if our mind is cloudy with food and stuff like that, then we won't be able to listen to the Lord and do what he has asked us to do. So one of the things I'm going to ask everybody is going to have to, and I guess my challenge or a request is, everybody has that one food in their life that got a stranglehold on them that they need to give up. So, or two, or three. To start with one, the reason I'm saying this because we need to if we give up the food that's the hardest, this food is the hardest to give up, if we give up this food with the help of the Lord, then we should be able to give up the rest of it. So I'm asking that you would take an inventory of your eating habits, identify, or if you don't know what it is, pray to the Lord that he will identify that one food that has that stranglehold, and then pray to the Lord that he would help you break that hold. So I know for me, I know two things that I need to give up, whatever. But what I do want to do is, if you know you have that one food that has a stranglehold and you need prayer, I'm going to ask everybody to come up front who has that one food they need to give up, and I'll pray for them. So I'm going to come down. If anybody else, I'm going to come down, because I know I have that one food I need to give up. But you feel fine, it's fine, but that one food that got that stranglehold, I want to pray, because I think that's something that we need to pray over, because sometimes I think we don't understand that some of this stuff we need prayer. We're not going to be able to do it on our own. but we need prayer to help us to get over some of this stuff.